This week has seen Zimbabwe adopt a new currency and the Sudanese president declaring a state of emergency. Plus, Nigerians finally hold the much anticipated ballot. This is Africa Focus. Here's a peek into the stories set for today.
Zimbabwe devalues currency as economic crisis deepens. Thousands of people across Algeria protest against President Abdelaziz Bouteflika's plan to seek a fifth term. Fighting a losing battle, South Africa battles to resuscitate its ailing cancer care.
I'm Lenny Rashid, and our sign language interpreter is Teresia Washira. Before we get into the main stories, let's take a look at the news that made the headlines around the continent.
In Cape, Senegal President Macky Sall cast his vote in the country's presidential election on Sunday, where he said he hoped to win a second term to represent the entire country. Cheered by his supporters outside the polling station in his home city of Fatick, he praised voters for coming out in large numbers to vote in a peaceful first round. Sall is expected to win after strong economic growth in his first term, although Rice Group criticized him for squeezing out rivals. Senegal's small fish exporting economy expanded more than 6% last year, one of the highest rates in Africa, driven by an ambitious reform and development plan that included the construction of a new railway. About 6.5 million people were registered to vote in more than 15,000 polling stations. Official results are due out on Friday, with a runoff for the top two on 24th of March if no one secures a majority. Sall's main challengers are former Prime Minister and that-time runner Idrissa Seck, who is 59 years old, and the 44-years-old political rookie Ousmane Sonko, who is popular among Senegalese youth. Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir saw in a new premier, vice president and governors in Khartoum as hundreds of demonstrators took to the streets calling on the veteran leader to resign. On Friday, he called on Parliament to postpone constitutional amendments that would allow him to run for another term in a presidential election in 2020. Facing the biggest popular protest since he came to power 30 years ago, Bashir also declared a state of emergency for 1 year and said he will dissolve the central government and state governments. The move is aimed at quelling spreading anti-government protest, calling for him to leave office. Bashir has stressed that he will only leave office if polls are held, but the relentless protesters have also vowed to continue till he leaves. Morocco played host of their SEC Expo in Rabat, the first African exhibition of its kind. The exhibition brought together companies from across the world, hoping to conquer new markets in a continent marked by rapid urbanization, positive economic growth, and tolerant legislation. The theme for the ASEC Expo was Security Technology Solutions for Human Development in Africa. Security experts, professionals, and business partners participated in the three-day event and shared their experiences to propose technological solutions adapted to the needs of African countries. The ASEC Expo 2019 aimed at creating a platform for exchanging ideas, knowledge, experiences, tactics, information, and demonstrations on equipment and technologies that would support and shape African security policies. Still in Morocco, Prince Harry and his wife Meghan arrived in the country for their last official trip abroad before the birth of their first child, which is due in spring. The royal couple were welcomed with a tray of dates, a traditional ritual of hospitality in Morocco, after they landed in Casablanca. Medical provisions have been made for the pregnant former American actress. Their visit to the North African country will focus on work to promote girls' education, women's empowerment, and the inclusion of people with disabilities. The trip, organized at the request of Queen Elizabeth II, has worried some British media, such as the tabloid Daily Mirror, which described Morocco as a danger zone and its capital Rabat as a city of riots. South Africa's main opposition, Democratic Alliance, promised voters an end to corruption that has tainted the ruling ANC at the launch of its manifesto on Saturday ahead of May polls. Endemic corruption has been exposed inside the ruling African National Congress, ANC, the party of Nelson Mandela, that has ruled since democracy in 1994, at two worst and all judicial inquiries probing official graft. Thousands of party faithful flocked to Johannesburg Grand Stadium, waiting for hours under a backing sun to hear Maimane's speech to unseat the ANC. Performers sang and danced to the crowds who wore the DA's signature blue but struggled to fill the large stadium in the city's south. Maimane kicked off his speech with reference to South Africa's sporting and cultural heroes before warning of a crackdown on corruption.
Nigeria's Electoral Commission has announced that incumbent Muhammadu Buhari won the country's election. Buhari defeated the main opposition party candidate Atiku Abubakar, a former vice president, to secure a second term. Even though President Buhari has been beset by health issues in his first term, voters seem to have rejected a corruption-stained candidate in favor of a leader who has promised to continue a campaign to eliminate graft.
Ecstatic crowds across Nigeria. These people are celebrating President Muhammadu Buhari's win, billed as the tightest presidential election since the end of military rule in 1999. The incumbent garnered 56% of the vote as compared to 41% that was tallied by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party.
Buhari Muhammadu of the APC scored 15,191,847 votes.
The 76-year-old won by 3.9 million votes, having garnered 15.2 million to Atiku's 11.3 million. The turnout based on valid votes was 33.2%. In the 2015 presidential election, turnout was 44%. Immediately after being declared victor, the president thanked Nigerians for giving him a new mandate.
I thank the millions of Nigerians who voted to re-elect me as your president for the next 4 years. I am deeply humbled and profoundly grateful to you for judging me worthy of continuing to serve you for your peaceful conduct.
Buhari faces a daunting to-do list, including reviving an economy still struggling to recover from a 2016 recession and quelling a decade-old Islamist insurgency that has killed thousands of people in the northeast, many of them being civilians. The results proved wrong those who doubted he could survive the blows of recession, military attacks on oil fields, and Islamist insurgency that blighted his first term. Buhari is a former military ruler who took office in 2015 and sought a second term with pledges to fight corruption and overhaul Nigeria's creaking road and rail network. His supporters, though, were adamant that the right candidate had triumphed.
I feel very happy. You know, it's something we saw coming, because now if you talk about the president, you talk about uprightness, you talk about the president, you talk about legitimacy, you talk about the president, you see anti-corruption and a whole lot that just speaks well of a person, you know, and we're all very proud to be associated with the person of President Muhammadu Buhari.
As a youth of Nigeria, I believe this is the way forward to this country and to my generation. And that is why we choose to bring him back for the second time. He's the best for us at this particular stage we are now.
However, as one would expect after a long drawn-out electioneering period that has claimed more than 35 lives, the opposition parties said that the results announced by the country's Electoral Commission were incorrect and unacceptable. It remains to be seen whether Atiku Abubakar and his party will move to court or which course of action they will take. But for now, most ordinary Nigerians hope that Africa's largest economy and top oil producer will return to normalcy fast.
Zimbabwe underwent a de facto devaluation of its currency as the country's central bank began trading a sharply discounted replacement currency. The country's top bank is attempting to ease a cash crunch that has affected the economy and plunged millions deep into poverty. Let's take a look.
Zimbabwe's commercial banks reopened trading a new currency, with queues outside appearing to be longer than usual after the central bank devalued the country's bond note currency. Though businesses continued as normal, residents of the capital, Harare, were anxious about the future, fearing a repeat of the 2008 hyperinflation.
We have a history. The government announced something, then things go out of hand economically. I can talk about when bond notes were introduced. It's not a secret, prices went up. When the Minister of Finance also talked about the opening of nostro accounts, saying the bond note and the US are not at par, this and that, things went up as well. Now the monetary policy is there. Now you can see from the trend. It's definite, actually. I can say it's definite. Prices may go up.
Speaking to Reuters on the streets of the capital, some residents say that the new monetary policy resembles yet another looming financial crisis, and the lack of clarity is not helping to ease their worries. Zimbabwe's central bank announced that it will scrap the peg between its quasi-currency bond note and the US dollar, creating a new currency from the bond notes and national electronic dollars that will be known as RTGS dollars.
In 2008, we had a crisis. So many people lost their monies. And today again, we have the similar case whereby things have just been said without any clarity on what is going to be the way forward. So I'm sure going forward, they're going to have a serious crisis, which is also going to bring uncertainty with regards to the prices.
For them to say RTGS is Zim dollar, it's very vague. Because if you can't touch the money, which they say our local currency, which is physical, I think that's misleading.
Zimbabwe adopted the dollar in 2009, but as a chronic hard currency shortage worsened, introduced a parallel system of bond notes that it pegged to a ratio of 1:1 to the US currency. The bond notes and electronic dollars locked in individuals' accounts for months due to the lack of cash will be merged into separate RTGS or real-time gross settlement currency according to the central bank. Other members of the public should, in theory, be able to go to banks next week and buy US dollars with bond notes or electronic dollars.
I think basic commodities are going to disappear from the shelves. This monetary policy is similar to the one in 2008, which never worked. So I'm not hopeful for a better future.
The success or failure of the new currency regime will go a long way towards determining whether President Emerson Mnangagwa regains public trust, further undermined by signs that security forces are reverting to the strong arm tactics they often deployed under Mugabe.
Coming up after the break.
Coming up, we danced with the dream catchers from the streets of Lagos to online stars.
We're about to pay some bills. Don't touch that dial. Keep it switched. Welcome back. This is Switch TV. In case you just joined us, you're watching Africa Focus. Our sign language interpreter is Teresia Washira. Now, earlier this week, thousands of students joined a growing protest movement in Algeria against ailing President Abdelaziz Bouteflika's bid for a fifth term, with rallies in and around the capital and other cities. Bouteflika, who uses a wheelchair and has rarely been seen in public since suffering a stroke in 2013, announced on February the 10th that he would seek re-election in the upcoming vote on the 18th of April. His decision has sparked angry protests in the North African country, with tens of thousands of people taking to the streets in Algiers, where demonstrations are banned.
Thousands of people in cities across Algeria marched on Friday to protest against President Abdelaziz Bouteflika's plan to seek a fifth term, and police used tear gas to disperse crowds in the capital, Algiers. The 81-year-old Bouteflika has been in office since 1999, will contest the April 18 presidential election despite concerns over his health. He has been seen in public only a handful of times since suffering a stroke in 2013. No to Bouteflika and no to Said, a crowd chanted while marching through the center of Algiers. The president's youngest brother, Said Bouteflika, is a presidential advisor. Reuters journalists filmed riot police firing tear gas over a crowd that ran to escape. Publicized on social media, the demonstrations went ahead despite mosque preachers warning of possible violence.
I am against the fifth term. There is no president. There is a picture. So here is our picture, and it says no to the fifth term. This is the picture of the people, and not the ones of the failed system. They sent our brothers, the police, to beat us.
Protests were held in at least 5 other cities, including Oran, Tizi Ouzou, Bejaia, Annaba and Sétif, news website TSS said, citing witnesses and posting videos. Bouteflika's re-election bid comes after the ruling FLN party picked him as its official presidential candidate. Several political parties, trade unions and business organizations have already said they would back him, and he is expected to win easily as the opposition remains weak and divided.
They want to do a 5th term for their own interests. They have to stop playing us. The president is dead.
Strikes and protests over social and economic grievances are frequent in Algeria, but are generally localized and do not touch on national politics. More than a quarter of Algerians who are under 30 are unemployed, according to official figures, and many feel disconnected from a ruling elite made up of veteran fighters from Algeria's 1954 to 1962 independence war with France. While the Arab uprising protests of 2011 toppled leaders in fellow North African countries like Tunisia and Egypt, Algeria's security forces managed to contain those mass demonstrations. The government was able to further calm tensions by increasing spending as oil and gas revenues, the country's lifeline, flowed freely from crude sold at $100 a barrel.
We are here because we are against the 5th term. We want a president who is able to accomplish his tasks, a president that we can see and who can see us. It is impossible to be governed by a group.
Bouteflika's office said late on Thursday that he will travel to Switzerland on Sunday for routine medical checks without giving further details. He had traveled before to Geneva for medical tests. Bouteflika remains popular with many Algerians who credit him with ending a long civil war by offering an amnesty to former Islamic militant fighters. His re-election will provide short-term stability to the FLN, the army, and business tycoons, and postpone a potentially difficult succession. Algeria is a key gas supplier to Europe and an ally of the United States in the fight against Islamist militants in the Sahel region of North Africa.
South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province is in the grip of a cancer crisis. Patients wait for more than a year and in some cases just to access treatment. Hundreds of patients have died in the region over the past 3 years as cancer services come under acute pressure following a decision by the provincial government to cut costs and stop recruiting or replacing doctors.
This is the final resting place of Piwankosi Mkhize. The retired electrician's death tells the story of the healthcare crisis in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province. In May 2017, the 66-year-old was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. But because of overstretched oncology services, he was told to return for a scan 15 months later. Piwankosi said the pain was so unbearable that he attempted suicide.
I'm very grateful to you for coming to hear my story. Maybe I'll now get help, because now the illness is too painful. I can't take it anymore.
As his health worsened, his scan was brought forward, but it was too late for Piwankosi. He died less than 12 months after diagnosis without receiving any treatment, depressed and in pain.
I do blame the Department of Health a lot because they do not take care of a patient who's suffering with cancer.
Opposition lawmaker and Dr. Imran Kika championed Piwankosi's case while he was alive. Kika says at least 499 people have died in the province waiting for treatment between 2015 and 2016.
Clearly, this is a case of a government that violates citizens' human rights.
Human rights researchers found patients in the province's public hospitals typically wait 5 to 12 months to see an oncologist and another 8 months before starting radiotherapy.
There are concerns, obviously. We would all like to access services as soon as we find that there's something wrong with us. We need to reduce the times. but there are things that we need to deal with.
Durban's Addington Hospital announced in June that its oncology service is once again working at full capacity to address the situation. Officials have also promised to hire more health professionals in the province, and the health minister said the region would get a share of a $7.6 million relief fund. But for Piwankosi's family and others like them, the steps are too little, too late.
The Dreamcatchers are a group of young dancers from Nigeria who shot to viral fame after singer Rihanna shared a clip of their infectious dance routine. Since then, their talent has kept shining, with supermodel Naomi Campbell visiting them in their home city. But life for the Dreamcatchers hasn't always been so easy. The children were living on the street before a teacher took them back to school and taught them how to dance.
With their wide smiles and infectious energy, it's no wonder the Dreamcatchers have been trending on social media for weeks. The viral video was shot in the suburbs of Lagos in front of an abandoned bus. Their dance teacher, Seyi, had no idea the Dreamcatchers would be such a big hit.
After the viral video, we had supermodel Naomi Campbell come over, and we had Rihanna reach out to Puma to send us some clothing materials. But compared to where we were this time last year, we've gone very, very far. It's huge.
Teacher Seyi takes kids living on the street in the city under her wing and gives them food and shelter. The rules are strict. If their homework isn't done, no dancing is allowed.
I had lived on the street for a couple of years, and then I moved to a place very close to a slum. And then I became sensitive to what the kids were going through, because then I had gone through it. I started teaching them dance, and then I realized how much they loved dance. So I used it as a way to put them in school.
Dancing gives the kids a purpose, who now want to help others.
It's inspiring other children that are on the streets and make them more focused.
I feel very excited because dance is fun. Because that is fun and we love dancing.
In Lagos, the Dreamcatchers are planning to make the most of their run. They want to make it to America and share the stage with Beyonce or Janet Jackson, a dream that may just come true.
On Africa Focus, we love hearing from you, so make sure you get interactive with us on our various social media pages. Remember, you can view this program along with our wide range of other programs on DSTV channel 268. On behalf of the entire team here on Africa Focus, thank you for keeping us company on this exciting of journeys. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.